Discover your inner goddess and live up to your highest value and most abundant potential. Welcome to Grateful Goddesses, a podcast that empowers you to unleash your inner goddess and take the leap of faith to live your best life. Your guide, Karen Pulver, joins her fellow goddesses in soulful conversations about gratitude, personal growth, authentic living, and a bevy of topics affecting women today. Let's start the show with your host, Karen Pulver.
Have you ever done a 23andMe? I've not done it. My son has done it, and he called me and he was so excited to tell me about our past ancestors. And when he went through all the different lives of what our ancestors have lived and how we've come here today, it clarified a lot of things that both he and I had been thinking about with our present life today. Wouldn't it be cool if you could do a spiritual 23andMe? Well, our guest today, in effect, does that with her Akashic readings, and we're in for such a treat. She did a reading for me this past week, and it really helped to clarify so many aspects of my life that I'm living this life, of different things that I've been doing or searching for, or even my purpose in this life. Wouldn't that be great if you could just tap into that? Well, here on Grateful Goddesses, we're going to have an opportunity to listen to some very cool experiences that I've had in my past life and learning how to decipher them in this life with our guest, DeeAnne. DeeAnne Riendeau is a thought leader in spiritual and business development whose mission is to elevate how we think and live. She is known as the modern-day Willy Wonka for giving away her six-figure company called Your Holistic Earth, which is the first holistic healthcare system of its kind. She is also the owner of Rose Hope International, in which she helps those who are seeking more joy, love, freedom, and a deeper meaning in life. Experiencing a life of chronic illness and near-death experiences, DeeAnne rebounded with 20 years of health education and a diverse healthcare career, including 6 health businesses. She has spoken at Harvard University, appeared on Shaw TV, Global Television, and CTV, and has been recognized as a visionary and business leader, having been nominated for numerous awards, including RBC's Women of Business and Alberta Business of Distinction. Along with being an entrepreneur, DeeAnne is a mom of 2 bright kids, publisher, public speaker, and international best-selling author who uses her heart and her head to guide others to create their best life. Welcome, DeeAnne, to Grateful Goddesses.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm so delighted to be here today.
Thank you so much for coming. And wow, that reading that you gave me last week, you brought up some things that I kind of didn't want to know, but once I heard them and got over that initial shock, and I think I want to say interpretation, I had to really look at it like it's a story and not so much affecting me and happening to me right now. Yes. I was able to understand. So to clarify, DeeAnne had told me that in several of my past lives, I've been murdered, and some brutally murdered, and some, I've been actually seen as being, so-called witch, where I've had these abilities to be quite intuitive and help individuals, where it's gotten me into trouble because I've opened that door up of being so intuitive and showing it in past lives that I've been killed for it. So when you first told me that, I was shocked. And like I said, I kind of took it as a personal, am I going to be murdered in this life? And whoa. And I had nightmares, and I emailed you and I said, I'm having nightmares about either being murdered or having no control, being put underwater, or something like taking an exam and I wasn't prepared, that kind of thing. So from reflection, you emailed me right back, right away, which thank you. And you said, you just have to look at it like a story and look at it in a way that can help explain how you are today. So can you elaborate on how people, when they hear this, can then use it towards looking at their purpose and what's going on in their life today?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to expand on the Akashic Records, it really is your soul's library. And when we bring things up around the past, the soul's history that you've had, it's not to bring up old traumas and wounds. It's actually to bring to the surface these experiences to help us deepen our understanding about why we feel certain things, why we have had certain dreams or cyclical patterns in our life. So the intention with knowing some of the history of our lifetimes is really around how can we take that information and how can we use it? How can we leverage it? How can we be the most whole being that we possibly can in this lifetime using that information? And so, although it does for some, like in your case, it brought up a lot of things to the surface. But when we bring the things to the surface, the magical piece of that is then we can clear that energy away. We can start to understand, why that happened in that lifetime and maybe why we're being blocked around something in this lifetime. And then we can allow that energy to clear and to move on, to shift or transform so that we can step more deeply into our power. And so, although for some people it can kind of shake things up a little bit, what it's really doing is it's opening up possibilities and pathways for you that were before locked or restricted by some sort of soul contract or limited belief.
And that's what I finally understood. It took about a week, but I meditated on it. I emailed you and I thought, okay, so in my past lives, I've been punished for allowing my intuition to surface and to be used and help others. And perhaps in this life, I can tell there are times when I might feel something and I say, no. So it's about being able to open up. And in fact, on this Grateful Goddess journey that I'm on, along with our viewers and listeners, I'm opening up to different areas and kind of taste testing different aspects. And I'm being drawn to more of the spiritual. Not to say that I think there's spiritual in everything that we do, including makeup application and fashion and eating.
There is.
It's mind, body, spirit connection for sure. But I'm learning about myself and my own intuition. And when you said that you had mentioned, that's why you feel blocked sometimes, I'm like, oh, I get it. And that makes sense. So that was really, really helpful. It's definitely opened my eyes, just like the 23andMe that my son had done. Do you find it sort of similar, like a spiritual 23andMe?
Yeah, I like you said, there's a spiritual thread in all things. I have a saying, when spirit calls, and spirit always calls, because spirit is calling us in all different ways and all different opportunities all the time to explore and to be curious. And so, something like 23andMe, what it does is it helps us reflect on our ancestral lineage as well, because we're not just talking in the Akashic Records about our soul's history, we're actually also connecting with our ancestral bloodline history as well, and the things that we are carrying ancestrally from generation to generation. And so when we do things like that, it oftentimes creates a deeper discovery, a deeper exploration into who we are, and perhaps again, the cycles that we have or the things that we keep experiencing in this lifetime. A lot of people are like, why does this always happen to me? And the reality is that life is happening for us, not to us. And when we can start to understand and put some of these puzzle pieces together, it's like all of a sudden we have this much broader lens from which we're looking at our lives, and we can move through our lives more gracefully and with more flow when we have that deeper understanding, both ancestrally and on a soul level from history.
And also the people that are in our lives right now. Like if you have someone that's driving you crazy, but they're really like a family member in your life, you can go back to the records and see, yes, that person has been with you for several lives. And in this life, you need to distance, or you need to learn that lesson of not getting engaged with them. Correct? Am I understanding it correctly?
Absolutely. In all the, teachings that I've read and the learnings I've done around soul connection is oftentimes family members and friends and loved ones, they come back in the same circles, but potentially as different roles to play. And so oftentimes there's these deeper lessons of learning and discovery, again, with these people that are in our lives. You know, you think about when you run into somebody or you met somebody for the first time and you just feel connected to them. You know, we've all had that, haven't we? Where we're just like, why do I know this person? Or why do I feel so comfortable or safe? And
or the opposite, or the
opposite of like, oh God, this does not feel good at all. And I don't know why, right? There's no logical reasoning why, you just feel it. And so oftentimes these are soul level connections, or people you've had experiences with on a soul level, or even ancestors have had an experience with. And so that vibrational frequency still exists. And so we can recognize it. And so our role as human beings is to step back and pause a bit, to be able to discern what is intuitive versus what is ego, so that we can make better decisions for ourselves.
So Alicia's joining us today as a featured goddess, and she has her own podcast, That's Myrony. And she has actually encouraged me to the signs, to the Myronies, to the synchronicities and motion that happen in your life. And I've been doing that. And I found, just by really tapping in and just like grounding myself and being open to these synchronicities, they certainly help me to clarify a lot of things in my life. So I'd love for her to start with her questions.
Oh, well, thank you. And DeeAnne, of course, wonderful to see you, because it's actually thanks to Myrony that we were connected and now are now all connected here. So, you know, in regards to questions, I mean, because I've actually done a lot of this work, and I believe I was divinely guided. And it was so incredible how that all came about, because, you know, it was like I met DeeAnne through a networking group, and it was the first time I had joined this networking group, and she just so happened to be the one talking. And then it was like, you know, we were supposed to talk on this one day, and it ended up being canceled and changed to an earlier day. And it was just, everything was so divinely guided. And I actually did her incredible course to learn about how to read the Akashic Records. And I actually did everything so based on this feeling. And my confirmation was the course started on my birthday and ended on my dad's birthday, who passed away. And that was like the highest confirmation, you know, Myronic confirmation, divine Myronic confirmation I could get. So, you know, it's like when we, you know, for those that don't understand the Akashic, and it's like I do love how you're saying it's the spiritual, you know,
23andMe.
23andMe. I'm sorry, I forgot the number, but the spiritual 23andMe. You know, it's like, how do you introduce people to this? Like, really, you know, like that first step. What would you say is the best way to bring that to people?
Well, you know, to be honest, I encourage people to experience a session, to just dip your toe in and see how that feels for you. Now, that being said, you know, every practitioner does the Akashic Records in a different way and brings a different energy to it. And so I really want to ensure that you are making sure that it is in resonance with you. And so having that bit of a discussion, or exploring the person's website, or asking for testimonials, you want to make sure that these people are stepping in their truth. Because unfortunately, there are people out there who are not working in their highest divine good, or for the highest divine good of others. So you definitely want to do a little bit of research, asking around about the reputation of that person. And I don't say that to instill fear. I simply say that so that you can be really aware of some of the traps. If any of the practitioners are encouraging any type of fear-based belief system around, if you don't work with me, you're never going to find the love of your life, and I've had that happen to people before, then they are not working in your highest good. And so there is a little bit of discernment there, and a little bit of research, due diligence, if you will, that I encourage people to explore. And then, of course, like I said, the next part of that would be then to book a session and just feel it out. There's a lot of practitioners that will offer a free session, which I do offer a limited amount of free sessions. So I always encourage people to dip their toe in a bit, experience it, see if it resonates. And then you can move forward in whatever way you wish. If you feel more curious to explore the records more deeply, you certainly can. But you know, it is our own journey. And so we have the power of free will. It's one of the perks to being human. And so we get to choose for ourselves what we feel is right.
And I want to make the testament here. DeeAnne is an oracle. She is, I mean, she is the most gifted in this work that I've ever, I can't imagine anybody, because, you know, I talked a little bit about my spiritual experience. It was actually my parents came through during my first session and was like, you have to do deeper soul work. And I was like, what deeper soul work? And she actually was able to give confirmation about this spiritual expression. I was like, oh, you're the deeper soul work. And so that's why I just love that.
That's interesting, because I've been told on this journey, I'm of course interviewing so many different people who I'm having sessions with. I either seek them out or they'll offer them to me, and it's been amazing. And it's really allowing me to go deeper, whether I want to or not. And I'm uncovering things that I'm like, oh my gosh, did I want to hear that? But again, with Grateful Goddesses, it's all about dipping your toe in the water. And if you want to go swimming, you do. If you don't, you don't, but at least you tried. And I'm really grateful that I'm trying all of these experiences. And if I want to go deeper, I will. So I know Rachel has had her Akashic Records read, not by DeeAnne, but by another individual. Would you like to share, Rachel?
Yeah. You know, what's interesting is, again, I would hope that if we're all in this place, that all of us are fairly old souls and have had many, many lives. So that's why I think the beauty of like Akashic reading is that you can learn something every time about a different aspect of your life. And what I'm curious about is, at least when I was having my reading, I was struggling with leadership and struggling with some relationships. And like all of this came out about how I was a king in a past life, but I wasn't a good leader, and that my husband was trying to make me a better leader because I've wronged him in previous lives. And it was just, I think about it all the time. And so I'm wondering, DeeAnne, like in your practice, like how does this work? Like what comes up for you? How are you reading the person? Are there many lives that come up, or how are you distilling it? I'm so curious about your process.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I feel is very important, especially in the spiritual energy world, is an energetic structure. And so, you know, with the Akashic Records, what it does do is it provides this energetic structure, if you will. So it's kind of like, you know, if we open ourselves up to spirituality, it's kind of like opening a fire hydrant, but without a hose. So, you know, the water's spraying everywhere and we don't know where to focus our energy to or what to pay attention to. And it's like, but if we put a fire hose on that fire hydrant, we can then direct our energy, and then we can bring the energy to where it needs to go. And so I like to think of the Akashic Records as a bit of that structure that allows us to really focus in on certain aspects of energy and to receive information in a way that we can understand it fully. And so when I go into the records, I have a number of ways in which the universe communicates with me. I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant. So for those of you that don't know, the clairvoyancy is their clear seeing. The clairaudience is clear hearing, clairsentience is clear feeling, and claircognizance is clear knowing. Now, here's the thing, folks. Everybody has a certain degree of all of these gifts. They are not unique to me or to someone who's had some great epiphany. Everybody has access to these gifts. They are innately given to us, okay? The difference is whether or not we really want to explore and tap into that. And all of us have different strengths in different areas. So I started out as being a clairvoyant, meaning I would get visuals. So I would see things, I would see like a movie reel of someone's history, of what they experienced. But now as I've deepened my skills in these areas and my relationship with these gifts, they're all heightened. So I'll hear, I'll see, I'll even feel like if someone's been stabbed or shot, I will actually feel discomfort in a certain area, not to a point of like, great despair or suffering, but I will feel something in that area. And then the claircognizance is the clear knowing. And so sometimes I'll just know something, I'll say it, and they'll be like, how do you know that? I don't know. They just tell me this stuff, So I'm also a medium, and I've been a medium my whole life. I didn't know it. I used to work actually as an EMT. So I worked on ambulance in my first career. And I remember feeling the EBGBs every time I would have to deal with a DOA, a dead on arrival, someone who had died in my arms or what have you. And they would come home with me, and I couldn't figure out why I would be so creeped out. Here I was, like 20-year-old, and like working with high trauma situations, going home and feeling like I had to have 5 showers because I didn't know that I had this gift. And so a lot of people are out there just not knowing that they have these deeper gifts, or they have these connections with the energetic world that exists. And so they feel confused or lost, or they feel like they're growing crazy. And the truth is, they just need to go on a deeper discovery of what those gifts are, or what their heightened abilities are, and start building a relationship with that. So to go back to your question, really it comes down to everybody's going to have a different experience, and different practitioners will read in different ways. For me, it's a multitude of ways. And what is needed for that person's highest divine good in that moment is what will come. So if we have an old soul, for example, they're not going to show me the thousands or hundreds of their lifetimes. They're going to show the ones that are relevant to that person in that specific period of time in this lifetime. So if it's not really applicable and it doesn't need to be cleared, those lifetimes just kind of stay where they're at. But what's beautiful about the records is that they know what we need to hear or what we need to receive in that moment. And so they deliver based on that. Does that help? That
absolutely helps. That makes so much sense. And I love the visualization, because it's like a lot coming at you at once, and kind of this whole new world. And for those of us that are kind of new in the past, I don't know, at least for me, it's been like past 5 years of like really kind of becoming aware of another way to view life, and to think about past lives, and to think about the purpose in our current life of what we were put on this earth to do and to learn. And it's such a beautiful thing to think that we're gaining all this knowledge to apply to our next lifetime. So you just kind of really visualized it well of why we're doing this, and why we're discovering this, and trying to learn about ourselves in a more deeply way. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Really is this remembering that's happening. Like, you already know all these things. They already know these things. And so what's happening is a remembering. When I say when spirit calls, and spirit always calls, it is almost like this wisdom or this knowledge, we're finally ready to receive it. And so a lot of people are coming into of understanding themselves in a deeper way, and being open to receive this new information, or this old information, I should say, remembering what they already know deep inside themselves.
Now, you had also told me, and you may not remember, but you had said that I had been raped. And I was like, what? But I sat on it, and I thought about it, and I realized, and I wonder, and this is my question to you, because I have said before, I'm very open and vulnerable with what I tell the listeners and viewers, that I've had pelvic floor therapy because I've had some issues down there. What I didn't express was I forget how many years ago, I actually had a cyst. It was not non-cancerous, but I had it removed. So I was talking to someone the other day about the records, and she said, oh, I wonder if the rape, does that lead into the health issue that I'm having down there in my lifetime now? That's what I'm doing now, is kind of adjusting and fixing and helping soothe and all of that down there, because I was hurt before. Is that something that I can, or no, it's really whatever I interpret it.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Energy is everything, okay? And so we carry energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. And so it just transforms and transmutes and what have you. And so I find a lot of people who like lost limbs even in previous lifetimes, they will have they will have pain within that limb. Someone who's been shot in a certain area, people who have been beheaded in the throat oftentimes have neck injuries or have trouble speaking their voice. People who have had head trauma oftentimes suffer headaches. So although there's not a lot of studies done, the information from the divine that I have received, which I believe to be very true and very accurate because I've seen it time and time again, is that these historical experiences that our souls have had, sometimes the souls don't know the difference between now and then. And so it brings this energy. And so oftentimes we do need to clear away the energetics of those previous lifetimes in order to remove the pain. Sometimes the root of our pain and our suffering and our illness comes from hundreds of lifetimes ago. And when we can get back to that root and clear that energy, then it's just up to you to do what needs to be done physically in this particular life. So absolutely, previous lifetimes do correlate, and we do carry energy in with us into this lifetime.
Yeah, that made sense for me. Michelle, would you like to join in?
Hi, yeah, I'm so fascinated by all of this. Until a couple of days ago, I had never heard of Akashic Records. So I love it. I'm also on a journey that has been really beautiful for me. And so this, I think, will get me even one step closer. So very excited about that. But can you walk me through the process? Because I have no sense about how it looks or what exactly it is.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So like I said, I call it your soul's library. There's different ways to reference the Akashic Records, but Akasha is Sanskrit for primordial substance or beginning of time. And so the theory behind the Akashic Records is that we can tap into your soul's library from the time you left source, God, whatever that belief system might be for you. And so the beauty in going into the records is that we actually go into a higher dimensional frequency. So we're going into this divine conscious space. Some people even call it God consciousness, where we receive information from, whether some will say that it's God, in the teachings of Linda Howe, who is a very well-known Akashic teacher and has an academy around the Akashic Records. The way that they teach it is that it's your masters, teachers, and loved ones that are helping you to access the records. So when you go into the soul's library, it's like there's these librarians there essentially that help you to guide you with information. Now, because I work with a spirit team, oftentimes I have a whole party going on in the space. And so oftentimes I don't even know who's giving me the information. I'm simply just receiving the information. Other practitioners will have very specific people that they use or energies that they use within the records. There's a few different ways to go into the records as well. You can go in using a prayer. There's a pathway prayer process that again, Linda Howe teaches. There's also meditations that you can do. And I know other Akashic practitioners who've received downloads of different prayers and ways to go into the records. I've also received my own download on how to get into the records. And then I know people that can just be in the records. So there's different ways of looking or going into the records. But what's really beautiful about the records and why they tend to really differentiate between, say, intuition and the records is that it goes into much more specific detail, and it also turns the questions back to you. So it's not just like, hey, this is fun and this is neat. It actually opens up these gateways, these pathways for your highest divine consciousness. And so just like Karen went through quite, some discomfort afterwards, which by the way isn't always typical, but it was a learning thing for her, and it was growing her just naturally in the aftermath of that experience. And so there's some beauty around that. And we also recognize that when we go into the records, it actually shifts our soul. So some people even call them soul massages because it actually shifts. So we could go in and we could just sit in the records and we would already be altered, if you will, in a good way.
But are you able to do a short demonstration with Michelle?
Yes,
okay.
I can.
Because then
Absolutely.
I love you, Karen.
No, because then our viewers and listeners, you don't have to, literally 5 minutes. I know you can't get in there, but maybe you can just demonstrate so that we can better understand.
So just so you know, I don't spend any less than 15 minutes in the records. So I'll go into your records, Michelle, but I'm not going to close out of them until at least 15 minutes, just because it's a lot to go in and then come out. And so we don't want to distort anything. So I will keep you in your records for 15 minutes, although I'll only spend a few minutes in sharing. Okay. And then I will close out. So basically I explained just what I explained to you, that we're going into your soul's library. I also share that everything I do is it with unconditional love and non-judgment, and here to support you in your highest good. So that's really important for you to know and to set that tone and that foundation. So the next thing that I do is I ask for your full legal name. So Michelle, do you have a middle name?
I do. It's Anne, A-N-N.
Okay, great. And so what's going to happen next is I'm going to read my prayer. This is the prayer that allows me to go into the records. Some of the prayer I say in silence, so there will be a moment of silence, but when your records are open, I will let you know, and I'll share a little bit with you as well. Okay. And
Wonderful.
Does that sound good? Okay.
That's fantastic. I'm excited.
Okay. So I just simply invite you to take some deep breaths as I go into your records. Allow yourself to just feel really rooted and grounded, and just allow yourself to feel really relaxed as I go in. So
is it okay if I close my eyes? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah. Whatever feels comfortable for you. Here we go. And so we do acknowledge the forces of light, asking for guidance, direction, and courage to know the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of everyone connected to us. O Holy Spirit of God, help me to know Michelle in the light of the Akashic Records, to see Michelle through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of Michelle have for her. The records are now open. So Michelle, thank you so much for sharing that, you've been kind of, your spirit is calling you and you're starting to explore. They are expressing that you are going in what they would consider a significant shift or up leveling in your life. So in other words, you're getting an upgrade of your human form. And so this invitation for you to keep exploring is going to continue to deepen. This is really interesting. They talk about you being healer teacher as well. So it doesn't surprise me. Oftentimes healer teachers find each other. Okay. So there's a reason why you're part of this collective group and know Karen, but you have also been a healer teacher in many of your lifetimes. One of the lifetimes that does come up for you, actually, it's interesting. It's a Mayan type of lifetime, but they're showing you as a female, but a very highly regarded female healer in the tribe. And again, I don't know if they call them tribes, but that's the energy of what they're showing me. I feel like this is, I keep actually seeing Chichen Itza. Now, I don't know a lot about the history of Chichen Itza. If you've ever had a draw to go there or been curious about Mayan history, there's a reason for that. And so you have had an experience in that particular lifetime. What's interesting about this lifetime is that you actually self-sacrificed your life in that lifetime. It was an honor to do so. And what they're expressing about this particular lifetime, one of the big pieces that's connected and tied into this lifetime is that this idea actually about self-sacrifice and giving a lot away. And so they want to just bring this to the surface for you because they're inviting you to set some firmer boundaries for yourself about what it is you really want. They're expressing that you tend to please people quite a bit, which is pretty typical for a lot of women. You step into use for yourself about what it is Michelle needs. So this is a pretty big piece for you in moving forward. And they want you to know that you've had a lot of lifetimes where you have sacrificed, almost like in a martyr sense. There's also a connection to Joan of Arc here. And there's this layer, like even this energy of this warrior spirit that shows up for you as well, Michelle. So there's, showing that you in previous lifetimes have really stood up for what you believe in, and really been a vocal force in that. Now, here's the thing, with what's happening with COVID even, you might have been feeling this like pull or this draw, like I have to do something, or I have to like speak my truth and my voice. And this is coming from some of these previous lifetimes where, it was life or death and you had to step into those roles. in this lifetime, they're asking you or inviting you to really just notice how you're stepping into your truth and standing in your light. And it doesn't have to be through battling it out. It doesn't have to be through, being super vocal. It's a very subtle, divine energy and graceful energy that is being brought forward. So the more you step into your truth and your light, the more you will be able to do what needs to be done at this point in time in this lifetime as well. Michelle, I do have some energies here as well. Did you lose a child?
No.
Okay, I do have a baby that's here and it's connected to you. Do you know if your mom lost a child at all?
She had a miscarriage before me.
Yes, okay. This baby is coming in as sibling type of energy. Do you know if the baby was male or female?
I don't know. I want to say female, but I don't know that I know. Like, I don't know if anybody knows that or not.
Okay, so your mom might have not known. I'm actually getting a little bit more masculine energy, but what's coming through is like this protector role. So it might have been a female, but it's a protector role, and I feel like there's a bit of more masculine energy to it. So I'll reference him as a he, although again, it could have been a she with just masculine energy. But what he's expressing is that I have been with you from the beginning and I will stay with you. And so he's giving me the sense like he's a champion for you and a protector for you, and almost a bit of a like quasi spirit guide even. So I don't know if you've ever felt that energy coming in, and maybe as a child your mom might recall some instances where you were talking to somebody else. That can happen. As a child, we're typically a lot more sensitive to these things, and so we can experience and see them and feel them a lot more than as an adult. But I just invite you to recognize that energy and notice that energy and how that energy might be showing up for you. All right. So he very much is adamant that he had this role to play, and he was meant to come so that you could come. So part of you being here and just recognizing that he had to leave to make room for you in a way. And that is not to carry any guilt or shame attached to, oh my gosh, well, maybe I shouldn't be here. It's more to express to you this divine love that he is bringing to the surface. He loves you so much that he would be willing to recognize he's got another role to play here in a very different way than what we would expect in this tangible three-dimensional world. So that is being shared as well. So there is an invitation for you to deepen your exploration in the spiritual path. You have a lot of heightened gifts, actually. You are clairvoyant as well. So you do have the visual. You probably have deja vu. You probably remember dreams. And so the clairvoyancy is one of your heightened gifts. And so you can play with the clairvoyancy and notice the clairvoyancy. Start to build a relationship when you are getting deja vu, when you are having dreams or you're having visions of certain things. Say, thank you so much. What more can you tell me? And keep being curious about that, because that's going to really make a difference for you. The other thing that they want you to know is that you're extremely empathic. To a point of like almost feeling hypersensitive. And I would imagine at some point as a child, you were told, stop being so sensitive, Michelle. And so the good news is that you haven't put up really the force field or big brick walls that many people do. So I commend you on that. But they do want to help you energetically, because sometimes you actually do take on other people's energy quite a bit, actually. And that's part of the people pleasing. We think we have to take their backpack of crap and put it on ourselves. You can care without carrying. Okay, Michelle? So know that. And in fact, it's much better if you don't take on their stuff, because it actually syncs your vibrational frequency. It can be very confusing. It stops you from knowing what your path is because you're getting all mixed up with this other stuff. And so one of the invitations for you is to set an energetic boundary to protect yourself. And one of the ways to do that is very simple. The first thing is to imagine your energy field, which we know is science-based. I call it my sacred bubble or my sacred space. And first of all, bringing that sacred bubble in 1 to 2 feet around you, and then setting the intention. I only allow energy serving me at my highest good into my sacred space. I only allow energy serving me at my highest good into my sacred space. And for all you listeners out there, you absolutely can apply this. And it should be done almost on the daily until it becomes just part of you. I don't do this daily anymore because it's just the way I am, and I've made that very much a part of me. But when you're first getting going, 2 months, like a couple weeks to a month, is what you want to aim for in terms of setting that intention. The other thing that you might want to try, and then I'll kind of wrap up for your time, is we brush our teeth every day to get rid of the plaque. Yet we don't clear our energy every day to get rid of things energetically. And then we wonder why we feel heavy or bogged down, or why we're getting sick, or why, whatever that is. And so I simply encourage you, when you're having your shower or your bath or whatever that is, you just add an intention. And the intention is, I send away any non-serving energy with light and love. I send away any energy that is not my own with light and love. And I send away any low vibration energy with light and love. And so very simple intentions, just to keep that awareness around energy and how much it really can impact you. So there is so much to share here, but I know there's other questions in the group. And so just
keep going.
But that is such a nice example that
Wow.
because it's hard to, you articulate it so well in describing, but to really experience, like I really hadn't known until I had experienced it. You're just having a conversation, really, but you're able to tap into that to translate it back to the individual. Michelle, how did you feel from that?
Wow, so many things. When you talked about the energetic bubble, I actually felt it. It was really weird. I visualized it and I felt it, and weirdly I had a hot flash during it, but I felt it, like, I don't know. And that's so interesting, because the more I'm getting to know myself, the more I'm aware of not wanting and seeing the value of not taking on other people's negative energy. And there've been more boundaries set up that way. And it's interesting, before I had no mind-body connection, and in the last couple of years, it's getting stronger and stronger, that now it's not even possible, I feel like, for me to absorb that. Or if I do, I realize it like really quickly, that I that's not good for me, and I have to step back or set up a boundary or whatever it is. So that really, really resonates with me.
Yeah. Well, you're on the most divine path, Michelle, here, and you're already the knowing is already there. You see, we remember that, hey, wait a second, that's not serving me, and that's not serving them either. And so we start to make changes naturally. And sometimes, we just need some extra help to kind of get us to where we want to go. And that's the beauty in the records. It's like having a life coach in your back pocket. You can go into the records anytime, to just ask whatever it is that you need. And most of us forget that the pressure's not all on us. We have resources to pull from, whether it's other amazing women like this, or whether it's our spiritual team. The resources are there for us. So something to keep in mind as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was phenomenal.
You're so welcome. And just so that the listeners know, we do close out of the record. So I do say closing prayer, but again, I'm going to just stay in this record space with Michelle, because the minimum I do in the records is 15 minutes or so. So I'm just going to stay in for a few minutes longer, and I will close out of the prayer at some point, regardless of how long the session goes. Okay. So just so that you guys are all aware.
And then Michelle, if you want to go deeper, you can contact DeeAnne. Rachel, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I'm so involved. What is the difference between, if you do a prayer for yourself to go into your own Akashic Records, what is the difference between meditating and going into your Akashic Records?
So some people will meditate and they can go into the records, but maybe they just don't know it. Some people do use a meditation to go into the records. So there's different ways to access the records. And so the difference between intuition, though, and the records, it's interesting, because oftentimes if we're to ask an intuitive question, maybe with our spirit guides, typically the answers aren't as detailed, and they don't allow for deeper reflection and understanding. I'll give you an example that's actually in one of Linda Howe's books called How to Read the Akashic Records. And this girl is struggling because her boyfriend is out hunting and she doesn't like the idea that he's killing Bambi. And so she's struggling with this idea of him going out hunting. And her intuition said, well, you know, it's understandable because you're compassionate and you care about the earth and da, 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 da. And then she asked in her records, and the records said, let's be really honest here. Part of the problem is because your husband or boyfriend or whatever, I can't remember, is being taken away from you and spending time doing other things other than spending it with you. And so then it went even deeper into that. So not to say that we can't get really honest answers in the intuitive space, but the Akashic Records has this ability to be beautifully honest with grace and allowing us to really deepen our understanding. So although intuition is very powerful and helpful, the Akashic Records goes into much deeper layers and allows for a deeper level of reflection so that we can transform ourselves.
So I just want to say, I mean, I've done so much deep work. I mean, DeeAnne's actually a mentor of mine, besides like, seriously, like such a dear soul sister. And just for the listeners to understand, every time you go into these records, it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And, you know, but it really is the greatest lesson I think we can bring up is this awareness. And it's all about this remembering. So it's the exploration, but yeah, it's not like you just you have to go in once. You can go in and you'll just keep finding out more and more about yourself and just feel so much more connected. So I just feel so honored and blessed that DeeAnne came into my life, and I'm so happy she was able to be here today.
The feeling is mutual. Thank you so much, Alicia.
And Alicia, you connected me to DeeAnne, so I appreciate that as well. I wanted to switch gears a little bit because DeeAnne, you had a business that you had done for many, many years, and then you decided to give it away. And you talk about a golden ticket, the Willy Wonka golden ticket. Can you talk to us more about that? Because oftentimes too on Grateful Goddesses, we talk about when you're in something that doesn't quite feel right and you're scared and you want to get out and you're not sure how, and you just prime example of just switching gears and, you know, doing something that you really felt passionate about.
Well, thank you for asking. Yes, I did give away a company, Willy Wonka style. I hosted a contest to give one of my companies away. And I just want to share to give people some context. You know, I spent 20 years in the healthcare sector, and through my own experience and a couple of near deaths that I had, I was guided to start a holistic healthcare system. And so I had this very divine experience when I was at my rock bottom, experiencing postpartum with my second child and really struggling and wondering where I really belonged in this world. And in deep reflection and prayer, I had this divine vision. Holistic practitioners and healers and heart-centered business owners who had a desire to help people to become healthier and to find the root causes and to take a proactive approach versus a reactive approach. And so having been in the Western medical sector my whole career, and having gone through my own health journey, I really felt compelled and drawn. So I knew that I was meant to do this. So here I started this company. I was running this company and loving it. But it was interesting because as I was growing this company, healers would come to me and they would say, I do the Akashic Records, or I'm a medium. And I'd be like, that's so neat. What's that all about? And so I, much like you, Karen, got to sample a lot of different modalities and experiences. And it created this thirst for more. It created this hunger to go in deeper, and spirit called me so brilliantly. And I listened more. And the more I listened, the more I received. And so I took the Akashic Records course, to be honest, as a skeptic. I was like, you can't go into someone's soul's library. That's not a thing, you know? And so I went in as a skeptic, and the biggest gift came out of that because the floodgates opened and all of my innate gifts came bubbling to the surface, things that I already knew but had forgotten. And so I started doing the Akashic Records on the side not thinking much about it. I just felt drawn to doing it. So I just kept doing it on the side while I was growing this other holistic health network. And in the last couple of years, you know, the spiritual practice has gotten busy, and the Akashic Records and more referrals kept coming, and more people asked me to speak about it. And so it got to a point where I was running 2 full-time businesses as a single mom. And I was like, I'm getting tired, and I'm not walking my talk here if I'm not taking care of myself and my family. And so I went into my records. I said, what am I supposed to do here? And they said, well, one company must go, and you know which one. And I said, well, how is it going to go? Do I sell it? And that wasn't feeling good. And they're saying, no, you're going to give it away. And so it was very clear. And I had business coaches that were like, DeeAnne, why would you give away a 6-figure company? You're crazy. And I was like, I don't need it anymore. It's not serving me. And one of the things that we do a lot of times as humans is we stay because we made a commitment, or we stay because, we think it's the right thing to do, but yet our souls are dying inside. That's not how it's supposed to be. Yesterday's divine commitment is today's heavy burden. And so the invitation around this story is to invite you to think about experiences that are not serving you, and to start discerning for yourself, okay, what's serving me? What is not serving me? Get rid of what is not serving me. In fact, it brings this image. It was a meme that was floating around social media for a while. And it's this little girl. She's about 7 or 8 years old, and she's holding on to this little teddy bear. And in front of her is Jesus standing, and Jesus is hiding a giant teddy bear behind him. And Jesus is gesturing out for this little girl to hand over the teddy bear, but she doesn't want to hang on to she doesn't want to let go of this little teddy bear because it's comfortable and it's safe. And she thinks it's what she's supposed to do. But if only she would let go of that little teddy bear, she would make room for the big teddy bear. So the point being is that, the company, Your Holistic Earth, that I had built, that was my baby, it was not serving me anymore. And it was meant to be let go of so that I could receive something bigger. And so immediately once I made that decision, my spiritual practice literally exploded overnight. My courses were oversold, and I was booking months in advance. And so it changed the game because I was willing to let go of the little teddy bear. And so, again, just in reflection, thinking about things in your life that you're hanging on to that are no longer serving you. And how can you maybe let go of some of those things?
And we have to touch on your near-death experience too.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, a lot of people ask me, they say, well, DeeAnne, how did you know that you had these gifts and that sort of thing? I've had them my whole life. It's just that, I put them away because it wasn't normal for a kid to know when things were going to happen before they happened, right? And so this is what happens to a lot of people, a lot of divine healers out there who might be listening as one of them. They put the gifts away, or they hide them, or they block them, again, because they've been told that they have to do things or be a certain way in their life. And so my first near death happened when I was just 5 years old. I was eating one of those round jawbreaker candies. And my dad said, DeeAnne, go sit down before you choke. And I turned to go sit down, and sure enough, I choked. So my dad came over, he wrapped his arms around me, started doing the Heimlich. I remember feeling like my head was going to pop off. It was so intense. But that jawbreaker would not move. And so I went limp in my dad's arms, and he guided me to the floor. And in that moment, I had an out-of-body experience. I remember floating above my dad, watching him work on me below. I could see my older sister peeking around the corner to see what the commotion was. My mom was running to the phone to call for help at that point. But I felt peace, and I felt divineness, and I didn't have any stress. And I just remember floating above and being like, oh, okay. Now, my dad actually used his thumb, and he wedged his thumb in my throat, and he popped that jawbreaker out, and he got me breathing again. But after that, my mom noticed that my dreams started to become even more lucid. I would have very real dreams. I would have sleep paralysis where I would be wide awake and still witnessing the dream. I would also wake up, and I would know when people had died. It was a thing. And I'd be like, Mom, Tyler's died. Mom, dad died last night. And my mom would be like, how do you know this? And so I was raised in a Catholic home. And so, you know, my mom, bless her heart, she didn't really know what to do or how to embrace what I was experiencing. And so we did a lot of praying, and I used the Lord's Prayer as a way to get through a lot of my nightmares and a lot of my dreams, which helped a lot. But I kind of stuffed it away because I was like, this is making other people feel uncomfortable. So I better be uncomfortable to make sure everyone else is comfortable. And so that's what I did much of my life. And so even though I had these wonderful experiences and intuitive experiences growing up, I still kept it pretty locked away. Like I said, even as an EMT working on ambulance, having dead bodies come home or dead spirits come with me, you know, I still didn't understand it. I just thought like, oh my gosh, I'm losing it. I must have PTSD, you know? And then fast forward to when I'm 26. And now I just underwent a surgery. I had reconstruction on my knee from a skiing injury, which is also from a previous lifetime, by the way. And I'm having this reconstruction surgery. I'm at home. I experienced some complication with my medication. My blood pressure bottoms out and I faint. And when I fainted, oh my goodness, you guys, I went to the most beautiful, I feel like it was heaven. I got to touch heaven. I was surrounded by these beautiful orbs of light. And they were giant, they were big orbs of light. And it's interesting. I know now why we depict angels with wings, because their orbs of light actually look like wings behind them. And they were all sorts of colors. And the vibrational frequency, oh my gosh, it was like, take your most euphoric moment that you've ever had in your life and multiply that by 1,000,000. And that is what I felt. And it was so pure and it was so tangible and so real. I remember saying, I'm staying here. Like nothing else mattered at that time. I was like, I'm in. And they're like, no. You're not done. And that happens in a lot of near deaths. And so I came to, in my brother-in-law's arms, he had caught me from falling and hitting my head, which I would have been severely injured. But I didn't know how to express to him what I had just experienced. And part of me was like, ooh, do I say something or do I keep this? Like, is he going to think I'm losing it? So I didn't say anything right away. But in the days to follow, the experience was so compelling. I had told my mom about it. And now I was in my kitchen telling my girlfriend about it. And I'm saying, oh my gosh, they were angels. And this is what it was. And this is what I experienced. My brother-in-law lived with me at the time. He overheard the conversation. He comes running into the kitchen and he says, I knew it. He said, I felt the angels too. He said, I felt peace. I felt, he said, I can't even describe what I felt, but it was amazing. And he's like, I honestly thought that they came to get you and you had died, but I wasn't worried and I didn't feel afraid. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's like, I heard something inside of me that said everything was okay. And he said, you opened your eyes. He said it was the most amazing thing. And so what that did for me is it validated my experience. And so many of us are having these divine experiences, but there's no validation. And so we don't trust it. And our ego says, that doesn't make any sense. You can't believe that. That's not real. You know, you're losing your mind. And so the ego mind is so good at keeping us from stepping into our truth and sharing our stories of these divine messages that need to be heard across the world.
Wow. Such a great story. And it illustrates so much of what we question, and just your two experiences opening you up. And then now what you're doing, it's just remarkable how you're helping individuals through your own gifts. And how can people reach out to you if they would like to have a reading?
Oh, well, thank you so much. You absolutely can go and explore my website. It's rosehope.ca because I am up in Canada. So rosehope.ca. Absolutely go explore the website. You can book sessions through there. If you're interested in taking advantage of the complimentary session, I do a limited amount every month. I do 10 free sessions every month. And so if you're interested in a free session because you're just not sure, absolutely, you can email me through the website as well.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Grateful Goddesses, and we will take your messages with us for the day. Have a great day, DeeAnne. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a true joy and pleasure. so wonderful, and bless all of you. Thank you.
Up next, favorite things. Opening up to happiness and joy.
Welcome, everyone, to Favorite Things with our guest, DeeAnne. We're going to start with our show and tell for adults with Rachel.
Okay, this is my newest favorite thing. They are incense matches. And I love cinnamon. But so instead of like lighting a whole incense stick, if you just want like just a nice little scent for a little while, it's just a matchbook and you light it. And, well, first of all, I'm going to show you. And then I put it in this little pinch bowl. And this little bowl was handmade. It's from the website Entwine, and it's made by a community that's an all-inclusive community with people with disabilities and special needs. And so this is just my little incense bowl, and you just light the match. And then I let it burn in the bowl, and I get the nice scent. And I bought the incense matches from this store in Andersonville in Chicago, and it's called Milk. And they have just all different little, they have clothing and gift items. A lot of things are made by Chicago local designers. So, but this is where I found this.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, DeeAnne, what is your favorite thing that you brought today?
Okay, so I love crystals and gems and stones. And for those of you that don't know, crystals have a lot of incredible, powerful energetics. There you've got your stone, Karen. And so crystal quartz is really great for clearing energy. And so I keep it in my office with me. So this is just a nice little crystal quartz. But I discovered this lovely lady named Jamie Merrithew, and she has a company called Mandela Love Affair. And she made me a set of these beautiful, and it's so hard to really see the artistic work, but these are hand painted, tiny little dots in those mandalas, if you can even begin to see there. And so she made me a whole set of chakra stones, and I absolutely just love them and adore them. So you can just feel the lovely energy. So I love stones and crystals and gems to help with clearing energy, setting intention, and really allowing for us to get present.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
So thank you so much, DeeAnne, for joining us today to share your wisdom and your passion and your favorite things. Enjoy your day.
It's been such a joy. Thank you so much.
Okay, so on to my favorite. One of my favorite things is to light a candle. And I lit this candle today. It's called Balance and Harmony. It smells really yummy, and it's been going on for this whole episode. And it really has helped me. The smell has helped me to stay grounded and to stay calm and open up to the harmony in my life. So I really do love that. And Alicia, what did you bring today?
I brought a little amethyst angel that was given to me. Actually, it's kind of funny. It was my old co-host, Todd, who, Karen, you got to meet. He gave me, it was funny, I was guided to give him one of my, I use a pendulum to answer questions of yes and no when I need a quick answer. And I was like, I showed him because I have this amethyst pendulum that someone gave me. And I was like, I don't need this one anymore, but this was the one that I had originally connected to my father's energy. And then he gives me this little amethyst angel. And it was just so funny, the little irony of the amethyst connection. And so with DeeAnne, and I know crystals and stones, so I was bringing the little amethyst angel today.
I love that. My son gave me an amethyst with a Canadian flag on it that I keep beside my bed. And it reminds me, he loves stones. I mean, they're all over our house because of him. So I do feel that stones have so much energy and they're so powerful. So thank you for sharing that. Michelle, what?
Yeah, and it came with it came with a cute little card of like what the amethyst, like the powers behind the amethyst. So
read some of it.
Okay, so it says amethyst is extremely powerful and protective with high vibration, guards against psychic attacks, transmuting into love, strong healing and cleansing powers, enhances spiritual awareness, extremely beneficial to the mind, calming or stimulating as appropriate, dispels anger, rage, fear, and anxiety.
I love it.
That's my birthstone, so I love hearing that.
It is, yeah.
There you
Amethyst is
go.
a great, powerful stone for sure. Thank you for sharing. Michelle, what did you bring today?
I don't know how well you're going to see it, but it's a piece of jewelry. It's a necklace. Oops, where am I?
Just describe.
Yeah. Oops, because I'm also showing it to you backwards. It's
I
got
have that.
Hebrew-
I have
I
that
know,
too.
because I think I got it for you now that I think about it. It's from an artist in Chicago, Marla Studio, and she has all these beautiful sayings, and this one really resonated with me. And in Hebrew it says, the translation is darkness before light and light before darkness, or one or the other. I can't remember which comes first, but it just really spoke to me. And I've had both in my life, and I really am grateful for all the experiences, because I feel like I'm really loving the person that I'm becoming. And it's because of all of those, whether it was darkness and great darkness or light, I've been able to evolve and learn and grow from those experiences and to be who I am now. And I'm really grateful for that. So that's mine.
And I find it so interesting. Our favorite things oftentimes, ironically, are similar. And we've not discussed this beforehand. What are you going to bring? So we had 2 smells, right? We had some stones. We had a jewelry like message. So I just find that really cool. So thank you guys for coming today and sharing.
Unleashed your inner goddess yet? Thanks for joining us today on Grateful Goddesses. We invite you to visit our website, www.gratefulgoddesses.com, to access today's show notes as well as other helpful resources. Don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, stay strong and empowered to be a grateful goddess.